Everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the Outlier podcast. I've got Mr. Busy Person, whom we've been trying to get in the podcast for months. Finally, we could get his time. We've got Steve with us. Hi, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Friday, just wait, looking at my watch and figuring out what time do I end my day. That's the intention. Nothing more than that.
That's a great goal, and I'm going to try to do the same today.
Yeah, my friend. That's what Fridays are meant to. You shouldn't mistake it like. I think Steve is one of the very famous personalities in credit unions. He doesn't need introductions, but since he's a friend, so I have to introduce him. Still, firstly, congratulations on making it to CEO at One Nevada. That's great. Steve is President and CEO of One Nevada, based in Vegas. He has been in the movement for close to 3 decades. One of the very progressive CEOs I've met over the period of time. Steve, I think that's enough. If you want to talk about something more,
that's enough. Yeah.
what your background?
Almost 3 decades. I can't believe it's been that long, but it has. And time flies by. I guess they say time flies when you're having fun. And it has been fun almost 3 decades. That's for sure. It's been actually a joy and honor to be within the credit union industry and meeting a lot of great folks such as yourself and many others that I've met over the decades. It's just been an absolute blast. So I couldn't be more proud of being a part of all this.
Absolutely. I mean, the industry is really lucky to have people like you who think and believe in the mission so strong. So, Steve, thank you for whatever you do for the ecosystem. Let's start with one question, Steve. The world wants to know. The world wants to know about your journey. What has been your journey so far? Let's talk about that.
So far? Yeah. Okay. You might recall too the journey started 28 years ago as a teller. We were Nevada Federal Credit Union back in the day. And so it's been going through that journey of understanding the organization top to bottom that I think has really helped me. And it's really been a pivotal part of, enjoying the whole, I'd say the whole journey has been the journey of enjoying the journey. But the journey so far really it's been great in terms of being the CEO now. We've hit the ground running. I think it helps that I've been here for a very long time. It's not like I'm coming in and trying to assess what's going on. We've got a great team, we've got a great culture, and this credit union's well positioned to take advantage of opportunities. So I think we've got a lot of good things going for us, and I've been fortunate to have a lot of strong leadership before me. And so, we honor that, but we're also looking to the future here and going, how can we shake it up? Because as you said, the credit industry, financial institution industry for that matter, is changing at a rapid pace, and the consumers are driving things more as technology evolves even quicker. So we got to stay ahead.
Like, this is the time right now, Steve, right? Because it might sound cliched, but still we're not competing against the other credit union that's down your road. Not really. But we're competing against the Chimes and the Revoluts of the world. An interesting stat that I keep on blabbering for the last 7 days, the percentage of checking account for Q3 that Chime accounted for was 13%.
Yeah.
And the percentage of checking account that Chase accounted for was, I think, 8%. Now, think the way how economics is changing, the way how consumer need and consumer demand is changing. A fintech of yesterday literally did beat Chase, in a few quarters, right? And now for credit unions, we need to be much more cautious to look at why do we exist and what is the way forward. So that's table stakes.
Absolutely.
What you talked about is irrelevant.
Absolutely. I think you hit it right on the head in terms of why we exist and how we make those connections with not only the members that we have, but who are we going to be bringing in to carry us forward into the future as an industry. And it's tough, the competition and what's being pushed out there from the Chimes, the SoFis. All of those guys are doing some amazing things, and they're very nimble and they're doing it quick. And so we've got to be able to do the same thing. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of consolidation in the industry too, because a lot of institutions are looking at this going, we just can't do it, we can't keep up. Versus maybe we need to collaborate and partner so that we can be a little bit quicker and stay relevant longer.
Yeah, I'm sure. So let's talk about your first few days, right? You've been in this role for some time now. So how does your first few days look like, and what do you want to focus on?
Well, the first few days for me, when you look at, I'm just over 4 months in now.
Yeah.
The timing that I was afforded here was right around planning season, so it was like that had to be my focus right out of the gate was building the board relationships and making sure we had some communication back and forth. That way, when for the first time I'm running the planning session, I can get some buy-in and there's some trust in that relationship, and also figuring out what I can do to introduce some change, introduce some different thinking, introduce some things that we need to be thinking about. And it's down to where we need to be focused from technology. What got us here won't get us there, type of thinking. And to that end, we did things like introduce stablecoin to the board. I went around and asked how many on the board has heard of stablecoin, and there were like one or two hands. And
Yeah.
we went through the whole process and even like a demo and kind of showed them what this is. And so it had the cool factor. But now it's like, okay, the cool factor's there. Why are we needing to think about this? What are the risks? And that's really where, I grabbed them from a hook perspective and said, this is what we got to be thinking about. Because number one risk in my mind is disintermediation from our deposits and then payment.
Yep.
And that's going to be an issue. So coming in at that time and being focused solely on the planning meeting was a lot, and it made me kind of try to hit the ground running. But again, I've been here for a lot of years, so some of that handoff and the transition was relatively smooth. And now we're focused on goals and budgeting for 26. So it's been a lot. It's been fun though.
It's been fun for you. I mean, I saw that news, I think, a couple of weeks back. You joined a pilot program for stablecoins with a fintech. So that was very encouraging and interesting to know that you're considering. And the last time we were talking about stablecoins, so what didn't I remember? So this is very good that you made the progress and actually joined a movement. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, it's, the way we're viewing things is you got to learn, right? You got to get in there and dip your toe in the water, so to speak, and make sure we're learning and understanding what's going on. And does it fit with us? Does it fit with our membership? And it might be that whole, Steve Jobs routine where it's, the membership might not even know they want this right now, but once we get it and we show them the capabilities and the benefits, it might be something they all clamor for at some point in time. And you also have to understand that your membership is very diversified in terms of where our generations are and how they might be thinking about payments or what they want to do with their money.
Yeah, it's true. Steve, moving on to the next, we'll talk about strengths. I mean, you're not a CEO who just walked into a credit union and trying to figure out. Not really. You've been over there for almost 3 decades. You know every single thing that One Nevada has gone through, from acquisition to now becoming a great credit union, right? So my question is, what strengths of One Nevada have really impressed you so far? So for the lack of better words, where do you want to double click and spend your dollars more and focus for the next few years in order to lead One Nevada from where it is right now to the next level?
I think our strengths first and foremost lie in our team. We've got a great team and a great culture, and they're all willing to look at things from a fresh new perspective. And so I feel there's a positive energy from the collective right now. And where I think that can parlay itself into some wins for us is still innovating, making sure that we're staying on top of all of those things and looking at what's coming at us. 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to sit in front of you and say, we're really going to explore all this Gen AI and stablecoin, because it wasn't a thing that was really being talked about at the time. And now it's like you got to be, if not all in, somewhat in these discussions and these topics. You can't avoid them. And so I don't think we quite understand what might be looking at us in a year or 2 years from now. And so that flexibility and that fresh perspective is maybe expanding our horizon and our range to looking at goal setting and how we're going to move the credit union forward, not from a 1-year perspective, but maybe it's a 3 to 5 year plan. And those goals aren't very specific. They've got to fit certain buckets or pillars. And if they hit those pillars, then we're moving the credit union along in the right direction, and making sure that we're also hyper focused on those things. They got to fit those buckets. And if they don't, we're not focused on it because it's not going to move us forward.
No, definitely well received points. That brings me to a follow-up question. Follow-up question is, obviously there are many things to even change, right? Many things to change, improvise, not improvise, swap things. So what gaps or opportunities do you see at One Nevada Steve that you want to address or change in the next couple of quarters or next year?
Yeah, I think it's getting again back to the being hyper focused, and one of the things that we got to get hyper focused on is member experience. For us, we've been really good at implementing technology, working with fintechs, doing all these things that we really become victims of our own success in terms of moving that digital first mindset. And now what you see is our branches and our contact center, the volume of interactions are decreasing there. And so
Yeah.
when that decreases, it means that that we have with the members is also splitting. And
Yeah.
members like that, and that's kind of want the way they want to do business, and that's great. But that doesn't mean that we should just sit on the sidelines and wait for them to come see us. We got to figure out how to be proactive and get after them. And that's the member experience part, and making sure that we're connecting all the gaps in every product or channel we're issuing and allowing the member to interact with us. So that's going to be a big focus for us in the next 12 months, something that's going to guide us. And that's not new in the credit union space, but it's going to be new for us. So it's a little bit of a culture shift.
Yeah, that's there. Now, talking about digital and experience, you double clicked on digital and experience, yes. So now, as we evaluate the current, I would say, as is scenario for your digital as well as member experience capabilities as a whole, do you want to make some early improvements or shifts? I know it's a continuation of the last question, but specifically towards member experience, what do you want to change? What are the visible changes that you want to bring in?
Well, the first thing is that the first change on all that is starting to talk about it and making sure that everybody in the organization understands that that's really the bridge. So everything we're doing from a goal perspective has to be under that umbrella of member experience. And that discussion is going to start generating a lot of ideas from the team. And I think this is more of a learning, listening and learning phase for us in year one of, all right, we want to implement this, but we want to make it One Nevada. And how do we do that for what we've done already for our members? Simple examples of that, are just, if we've got, if we're going out there and doing CD pushes, are we making that as automated as possible? Is there friction in the process? And so we're gonna have different committees that are assigned to making sure that these member experiences from top to bottom are very tight and something that when we get feedback from our membership, they're really pleased at their experience with us. A lot of that's going to bleed through in terms of how we handle data. I mean, we look at, we've got data warehouses, we do a lot of things with data. But the data that's missing, in my opinion, is we don't have the sentiment data and how members feel about us. And so if we can start building that with our inbound and outbound touch points, we'll really understand a lot more and use some of that data analysis to make ourselves even better.
That's very valid, because one of the basic questions I ask CXOs, how do you measure engagement? How do you measure satisfaction? And every time I hear NPS, I'm like, this is something 10 years back, right? Now, how do you measure? There's a basic matrix in place to measure engagement, measure satisfaction. But I'm glad that you're thinking across that line and not just depending on what NPS scores are across channels. That's one component, but that's like a 5% component.
Yeah.
How can you go and do that rest?
Yeah, so we don't use NPS, and so we're trying to figure
I'm glad.
how to do that on our own.
I'm glad about that. Now, obviously, transition means some cultural changes, but obviously, I mean, there's not any cultural change because you are there forever. Everyone knows you.
Yeah.
Just that your office has changed from the other office to this new office. That's the only change that has happened, if I remember correctly.
Upstairs to downstairs.
Exactly. So, but still, what kind of communication or cultural style that you want to establish, right? I mean, are you trying to change something that's there, or do you want to continue whatever you're doing right now?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both. There's some things that we're looking at changing. Again, the employees are engaged and they're energized, and I think they all expect something fresh and maybe a little different. And so we've got to take advantage of that. But also build a really strong foundation, and we have a great culture, and you want to make sure that stays into place too. And we're just looking at making it better, as we evolve and change. And so a lot of the things that we've done in the past, I've been a part of, and I want to make sure that we continue those things. It's just different now, right? I'm more of a part of it in terms of leading some of that stuff, and some of those initiatives and then interacting with the people, where maybe in the past I was more in the background as the CFO and COO, just doing the number crunching and getting things done. And so some of that still exists, but the people connection is very important. And we've got a really engaged team, and we got to make sure that stays strong. And communication is very strong. That's going to be a focal point of mine for sure.
I understand, Steve. One last question in the interest of time, right? So imagine that I call you up next year, same time. Next year, same time, a bit earlier when you complete a year, right? What do you think success for yourself, not to the world, success for yourself will look like for year one as a CEO?
Success for me looks like everybody's engaged. We've got some new thoughts around strategies and goals and focus for the credit union, and everybody is on board and understands the direction. So that means I've done it in a clear way that provides direction, and we've gotten a lot of input from everybody that has helped shape this, so we're doing it together. And that to me is really important. And so if I was on a call with you a year later, I would hope to be saying, damn it, we nailed that.
That's what I want to hear. And I don't want to hear that over a call. I want to hear it over a glass of whiskey.
Yeah.
That's my
There you go.
We know ourselves what we are. But Steve, this was great, and we wish you, on behalf of the Outlier podcast, all the best for your year one, and we'll be cheering always on the sidebar.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Steve, for taking your time out to do this with us, and we appreciate him. All the best.
Thanks, bud.